안녕하세요. Hello. So sorry it's been such a long time. Unfortunately, I hit the capacity of my technological storage and capability. So for the month of October and until very recently, I had solely been working off of my phone and tablet. So now I have been blessed by adult debt and have a computer finally. So thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for all who have followed since, even though it's been like a month so far. This will be a perspective on my Joseon Sherlock Holmes project. So some of this will be in a rather far time jump. I actually finished my garments knowing tech was a little bit bound at the moment, so sadly I missed the coat making aspect, but I will be making similar coats in the future as I do. So that will be having a how to make a dopo video in the future. So this will be sort of a mishmash, apologies for such, but the Joseon Sherlock Holmes actually got finished for, as you may know, I attended the antiquarian dinner hosted by Dandy Wellington here in New York and got to meet the pantheon of historical dress, historical fashion, vintage icons that looked up to for so long. So had a wonderful time, so blessed, so thankful. I will be doing a little separate video on my experience on that upcoming. I've been catching up on a lot. So I finished that Joseon Sherlock primarily to wear for the events around the dinner, and I had actually a serendipitous meeting with the wonderful Paulina Kim Joo, a Korean photographer from Chile. Muchas gracias. It was a wonder that she was in New York, going to be in New York, and that the timing worked out and that I was able to work with another Korean artist, someone in the international Korean diaspora that is so wide and varied, and just so thankful I got to meet such an amazing person and such a talented person, first off. But I will be having a few of those photos at the end for the finished product, where we shot on the Chelsea High Line here in New York and had a wonderful morning together, and hopefully we'll meet again soon in the future. So thank you again, but we will jump to the video and do a little cuts and edits. So thank you guys, hope you enjoy. 안녕하세요. Hello, welcome back. So this video we will be beginning my could be multi-part process of Joseon Sherlock Holmes. So for this project I will be, knock on wood, hopefully trying some new things. I honestly rarely use actual historically adequate, accurate, traditionally used fabrics very minimally. I will use traditional pattern and cut and garment structure, but with whatever fabrics I have, modern Western. So even though I do wear Hanbok being in a sort of an all-encompassing term, same thing as if in the West I said clothing, pretty open. But Hanbok being traditional Korean structure, I just make it in different fabrics than per se the latest of the Dangryeongpo traditional Korean silk pattern print. So for this project, I am inspired by, of course, the great likes of Bernadette and Nicholas of taking on the Sherlock, way I see it, sort of a milestone for the historical dress, historical costuming community. I've always wondered, what would Sherlock Holmes look like if he were a man from Joseon period Korea in Victorian Edwardian England? So if that were traditional Korean patterns in English, or traditionally used, thought to be English aesthetic wools and tweeds and such. So I finally took this dive after many, many, many months, could be well over a year of me dreaming of this, thinking about it, going over and over. So this outfit, I have chosen the date of 1899 in Victorian England for a couple different reasons. In terms of outfit structure, what I want, of course, we'll be having baji pants, which I actually have my pattern pieces cut out for, which are going to be in this lovely brown herringbone tweed. Then in the same tweed, I will be making two new garments that I have not made before. One being, as I discussed in a previous video, a vest called a joki, which is the first Korean garment to have intergarment pockets, inspired by Western style vests. So I'll be making a joki, making my first jump into buttonholes, and then we'll be making a jacket called a magoja, which is sort of waist ending. I wanted that sort of classic Western style menswear trim, long leg line look. So with the joki and the magoja jacket, I can get that, and that will be made in this tweed here. So my inner three garments will be all matching tweed. The magoja actually being Manchurian in origin. Ex-regent Daewon-gun was in Chinese prison from 1882 through 1887, and once he was freed, he returned to Joseon, Korea wearing this jacket, and then upon his return, the jacket's popularity spread, and both men and women wore this jacket, interestingly enough. So I'll be making a magoja, a joki, and baji from that herringbone tweed, and then hopefully tomorrow I can make a dash down to the garment district and get, I wanted a sort of a bigger tweed pattern, just something different for both a robe called a dopo, which I have referenced. It is the sort of baggy, roomy outer robe with the extra panel in the back for wind-catching flappage. And I chose 1899 actually both due to the magoja's introduction, but as well, the dopo was abolished in 1883 by royal decree simplifying national costume. It was only after the Japanese War, referred to as the Imjinweran, from 1892 through 1898, did the dopo reappear in Joseon society. So I wanted to give a year for expansion. I'm still planning out the actor backstory of Sherlock, if he studied in Korea, solved some mysteries, detectives, proved himself to be enough of an interest, and then somehow got himself to Victorian England and stayed in Korean fashion, but in non-Korean fabrics. So we'll be thinking of this backstory. And also brought to my attention, I'm like, oh, a Watson. So we're just doing solo Sherlock as of right now. Watson TBD. So 1899, been making a dopo. Oh, as well, the classic Sherlock deerstalker hat. There is a Korean winter hat that is a wraparound. It has an open top so I can wear my gat on top of it. But it has a wraparound and sort of flap downs that are sort of the deerstalker look aesthetic. So the hat as well as the outer dopo will be in hopefully the fabric I get tomorrow, and then the magoja, joki, and baji pants will be out of this brown herringbone tweed. I will be using a vintage ivory or white silk joguri as the shirt underneath because it works and I don't want to make a new one. And then shoe-wise, I'll figure out a couple different options, but we will see. And on we go. So we are at still the beginning steps right now. We have my lovely, lovely, lovely tweeds all cut out. I could do a better lining, but I sort of want to nail down whatever fabric stash. I honestly do not have much due to the use it all geometric Hanbok way. So I have some really nice pink linen. Come on. I figure this will be nice. No one's ever really gonna see this on me. For the Joki and Magoja, I have a gold silk taffeta that I believe will go for the linings of both the Joki and Magoja with this. So next step up, I will be I'm debating if I'm sewing these each pattern piece to the lining first, flipping and ironing to give it more structure, because I really don't want to put an interfacing, and I want it to be a little bit thicker, I think, in my head, hold a little bit more structure. So we'll probably do a coin toss or something like that, but checking in a sec. So, true to form, I actually just did my own thing, and I am laying my lining pieces on top of the tweed and just doing a straight stitch on the machine around the edges, flipping them inside out, as I believe editing me can see past me doing at this moment. In traditional Chimseon Hanbok making technique, you would do the actual nice way of making a pair of pants and then a pair of pants, and you put the pair of pants in the other pair of pants, and then you sew them nicely together. But this, like I said, I like the structure of a thicker seam supporting when I have something that would traditionally need an interfacing or a lot more tailoring technique than I have the patience for at the moment. So I settled for this, and I'll leave them all open just to at least carry over the tradition just historically anywhere of not wasting fabric. So I will keep seams open and not cut them, and not cut extra if I can help it. And a thicker fabric like this, I did have to trim some around the collar where this works against me, but just in case you wanted to reuse the fabric or resize it, you would have everything still within the garment. But some cases I do have to cut, but here I am just flipping them and pinning everything together, so that gives at least my loose tailoring a little bit more structure. Now this is a quick look at the back of the baji. This oblique panel, referred to as a seipok or a sapok, is unique to Korean hanbok as it allows for freedom of movement, especially in a floor sitting kind of lifestyle. This is of course minus the waistband, but hanbok traditionally and quoted are supposed to move and accommodate the human body, especially after a big meal and such. So a lot of freedom in the garment. Here is our tweed baji. Here are our tweed baji with our seipok oblique panels. And I have just sewn on the waistband sort of inside out. Just below I have, oh goodness, a piece of horsehair interfacing just for some added structure, but this seam right here, so I'm flipping it inside out, just pinning my fold over of where the waistband connects, and now what I can do here is flip this inside out, or flip the excess until I can have a clean waistband that will eventually fold over like that. Check in a sec. So I have flipped our baji inside out, and I just tucked under the inside of the waistband, and I am going to hand sew. Just some neat stitching all around this, and then I can flip it, press. I still need to figure out the waistband situation, and then I will be making some little knot buttons for the ankles instead of our usual ties. I think a knot button is a little cleaner. I have a pair of what I believe to be like a wool blend modern baji, and their ankle closures are little knot buttons as well. So that is on the to-do list. However, it is currently a little after 10 a.m. and I want to get down to the garment district sooner rather than later so I can come back here and just sort of sit and get a lot of this stuff done today. So perhaps this will be waiting for this evening. We'll see. So here's our joki. And this is the vest with the first intergarment pockets instead of using the little separate pouches that go in your waist belt. So unfortunately, this means I also will be having to do my first buttonholes and buttons. So debating if I'm doing the rapid penny and fabric trick and just making my own or doing what. This is actually the joki, and the magoja jacket that I will be pulling pattern from are from my first set of hanbok years ago. But this, I will have 3 pockets, and literally all I did set it down, then there I will cut these out, then I will cut out lining, and then I will sew them together and do. This has top stitching, so I don't feel bad about doing that. Top stitch, say that 10 times fast. 2 rows of top stitching, look at that. So I don't feel self-conscious if I know someone else did it before me. Yes. So this will be our joki. Forgive me, pardon me early if I do not quite film as much. I don't know if I mentioned, but this is my first sort of deadline. I mean, no one's pressing me towards a deadline, but this is the first project beyond like, oh, it's my birthday, I want a new robe. This is the first deadline at the end of the month for an event, and I just want to get this done. So I am trying to whip these out. Look, it's the pants. They're so comfy. I mean, granted, we have just yet started getting fall weather. So that means hanging around low 80s, high 70s. So I will die in these, but hey, I love it already. So we'll check in after some vest doings. So 1,000 apologies. I sort of got in a go and did quite a lot without filming. I'll try my best to explain in post, which is not the point. But thank you for bearing with me in my anxiousness to get this done. So the last time I think we checked in with the joki was everything was still not yet cut out. So I cut it out. I have a shantung red lining, and then I just sewed to each. I did a top stitch down once I attached everything together, and I utilized for the very first time a buttonhole maker. I know, somewhere like Bernadette Banner coughed or something when I said I'm not sewing hand sewn buttonholes right now. But you know, quick tutorial. They didn't turn out too bad. I reused some old jade beads that came off a bracelet that snapped on me, unfortunately. So instead I'm like, well, you know what? You'll be buttons. So fortuitously had those aesthetically pleasing little buttons. I have a hesitant maybe to reuse, that is a Magoja over a Joki up there, another vintage number, but it's got these green dangly buttons right there that may or may not be taken off and put on the Magoja that will go over that, since we have these lovely little buttons. So I just cut out the pockets, these patch pockets, I believe. I have been watching on loop the Bernadette Banner playlist on Lady Sherlock and all of Nicholas's videos and the Lady Watson videos, just general aesthetic, and just going over different pockets, different detailing, and then wildly ignoring it as I do my own thing. But just, you know, mood. So I'm about to just do a top stitch over top these. I folded them over to have a little bit more sturdiness. So I do have 2 layers of this tweed. And do I have proper lighting? I will probably do a post about this on the Instagram if you are on such, but little old bad me went and bought some terribly expensive for me, I believe 100% wool beauty. So this will be what my outer dopo robe and the headgear will be made of. I got 8 yards and almost threw up in my mouth a little when I got to the register when I didn't even ask how much it was per yard in the first place. So partially on me, but it is worth it. It will be worth it. It's gorgeous. It's this gray, and when matched on top of my brown, I think it's gonna work fine. So this will be my new coat fabric. Oh my goodness, it just feels almost felted. It's... You hear that? Yeah, so very excited. So I may or may not check in after this is done. These pockets are the last, I think, knock on wood, last little bits for the jockey, and then hopefully tonight, currently it is about 9 o'clock, and we are on yet another loop of Bernadette Lady Sherlock. So we'll see if I get to the Magoja tonight. It would be great if I could finish Baji, Joki, and Magoja all in one day, but we will see, knock on wood. So check in soon. Hello. So we are doing a quick check-in. We have finished the Joki and Baji, as you can see. I have to fix a button. These are definitely not aligned, but I don't really care. First time, and whatever. I live with it. So now we are moving on swiftly to the Magoja. And the Magoja is this garment, once again. Manchurian in origin, ex-regent Daewon-gun, I believe, double check that name, came back from his time in a Chinese prison wearing this coat, and then it spread. Both men and women wore it. This is a vintage Magoja. It closes center front, has these 2 little salt panels here, but everything else is the same construction in terms of side, back, and then a sleeve. Mine is going to be a little bit longer. This is approximately 45 centimeters in length, sleeve length, so it does hit like high wrist. Definitely nearing that 3/4 length sleeve, but mine I extend to a standard of 60 centimeters. So I'm going to have this general shape, but I want it to be slim enough so it can fit underneath. So this broken down is 3 centimeters by 27, and we are 61 centimeters in length. In the back, for lining, it's just pretty standard. Tiny little flares at the side and the back. There is a center back seam. I'm not going to do that just because I don't want the added extra step. So figuring this out, I made our little salt little panels, and I sewed it in, and then I cut out lining. Now I had pink shantung left here, and then I have, thank goodness, a great deal of this golden shantung left over here. So I have my 2 sleeves, which will just flip like this, and then I'll shape it, and then this is our back piece. So we will hopefully conquer Magoja, and I will harvest our little closure buttons. Oop, I heard ya. There you are. Our little stone carved little buttons. This specific one attaches with a snap, but they do also have like a legitimate loop, and you slip this through, and that's the button or closure. So there's a couple different ways I can do this. I think that loop is going to be my best bet, even though I'm sewing this with a peekaboo modern machine. At least this way I can not have my historical inaccuracies quite as glaring in this outfit. So I'm gonna sew these up. Debate if I'll check in. I may just flip, iron, and seam together and check in a sec. So obviously, as I mentioned before, this is past the point where my technology has failed me. So I just did what I needed to do, finished the garments, and went about my life, knowing I would eventually, hopefully soon, get things well again and can amount to bigger and better things. So in terms of our get ready with me for Joseon Sherlock Holmes, we have a vintage silk jogori top and our tweed baji, which I had closed with our little Maedeup knot buttons at the ankle. Now, you wouldn't usually wear the Norigae tassel as men. This is mainly a woman's wear statement, but I love a tassel and I don't care. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to show color and texture and different meaning. Of course, different Norigae, different meaning. You could hold sewing needles, you could hold weaponry and others. Mine are a mixture of modern and traditional from stores such as Leesle, Hoya Evening Butterfly on Etsy, Bella Kid Hanbok on Etsy, and they are amazing stores, so please patron and look and ooh and ah over them. Now we have put our jockey vest on with our in-garment buttons. Now these buttons, like I said, used to be Jade bracelet buttons from Pearl River Mart, pearlrivermart.com, pearlriver.com. This is a Mapae, or there is a more technical Korean name I have to find out, and the number of horses on this little medallion ranked how important you were in order to command so many forces to get your task done. And this is the finished magoja with the crazy colored lining. Ideally, in a world with no budget, this would be black silk lining, but hey, I'm fine with it, and it's perfectly Korean in its use of color. Now, these are the little loop closures that I talked about earlier. In a thinner silk, these execute a little cleaner, but they're perfectly fine. I've never had an issue since, and they work totally just as well as any other closure, and especially if they don't have to be a blatant modernization, I'm totally fine with it. Now, up next is sort of an optional layer. It's a garment I already made, thankfully. This is a very narrow sleeved dopo robe, but it works the same as a sochangi, which would be a slim sleeved, simpler, I believe it would be just vents at the side and no extra back flap. But that would be used as a, could be an outer garment, but in the layer of succession and layering, it would go under a robe such as a dopo or a durumagi. Now this is our finished Joseon Sherlock dopo. I have added the traditional Korean hanzi mulberry paper collars called dongjeong collar. And that gives a really nice structure and a really crisp Korean signifier. Here you can clearly see the extra back flap of the dopo and a little peek of the lining through the vents.
some gold lining, and I have gold lining in the sleeves. For the non-necessary jewelry, we have a yellow tiger eye bracelet from Pearl River Mart, a hand-carved crane with a Bulocho eternal elixir plant from Leehwa Wedding, a Celadon ceramic traditional crane motif ring from Momkid on Etsy. It is a Korean ceramic studio making these beautiful Korean ceramic rings. And then we have a traditional Korean tiger eye pattern ring from Leehwa Wedding. I think y'all saw me scream over that in the Tailoring video unboxing. And this is the Pongcha Nambawi mix. I made this weekend of antiquarian dinner, finished that up. It is recycled vintage rabbit fur from a vintage collar that I cut up, and I made a pattern just looking at what it needed to look like and how big my head was. Honestly, this could probably be a little bit bigger, but it's nice and snug, and it fits and does everything I need it to do. Now, the ornament on front traditionally would be a tassel. I myself had an onyx dragon pendant from Pearl River Mart and sewed that to my hat. So we may change that, but I like it for now. I think it serves its aesthetic purpose. And none of this is traditionally really accurate, so I can do what I want. And on top for the finishing crown and glory, of course, is our gat. I chose my gat with the recycled vintage Korean necklaces because I think that metal beading looks really nice with the Joseon look. Now, like I was mentioning, the hat fits fine. The only thing is that it's a little tight to where I can't hear anything once the flaps are down. So that problem aside, I just need to eventually sew ribbons onto the end so I can tie it around my chin or tie it up so I can actually hear again. Now the pipe is a traditional Korean pipe called a gombangdae. Now this, like many cultures in the world, smoking accessories were a popular status symbol. Those who could afford it, those who could have the proper accessories for it, all part of the status game of history. But it was very popular and something that I thought a Joseon Sherlock Holmes should have.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining me on another wild and long overdue time Hanbok adventure. I know there's a couple questions about the ties on my pants. So these are the pair of baji that inspired me to do so. But the knot buttons on my ankles, so it is one double folded piece, and I cut it so it's the size of a loop, and I make a knot on the other side. And then as to where it folds nicely, such as that kind of sandwich, that's what I'm looking for, and that's where I will place the knot buttons on the ankle. So it's a really great way if you have like harem pan or just like a baggy leg and you want a nice cinch, that's a really nice clean look, then the button on your ankle is a very nice option for finishing. You know, passed. But thank you so much again. I will endeavor to do some sort of upload schedule. Like I said, I have a couple things, you know, running before I really know how to walk with computers. So we are on a crazy learning curve at the moment. There are no limits anymore. So there's a couple videos, like I said, antiquarian dinner, just a crazy, tremendous thank you to Abby, to Noelle for planning, and Dandy, of course, for hosting and doing all the hard work of finding the venue and planning and getting us all together. Eric Anderson from Hendrix Gin US, just such a damn magical evening that I'm pinching myself watching Noelle's video. And oh, I am gonna go down on the train to meet Noelle for the first time. What? So just a tremendous pre-video thank you. Like I said, that will be upcoming. And another crazy thank you, Paulina Kim Joo. Just, you are a wonder and a treasure, and it was so fantastic just to not only work professionally with another Korean, but to converse upon what it means to be Korean outside of Korea, and identity, and our place, and how we feel as Koreans in a non-Korean dominated country and society. Just a completely magical day. A big thank you also as well to Claire Zhang, who translated the back of my, I think it's called a Mapae, the badge. I know it's a different name actually, but that's the one I've seen it referred to. But it has executive order by the king on a specific date, where Claire is like, oh, that actually says something. Thanks, Claire. Thank you so much for joining me on another crazy Hanbok adventure. Stay tuned for some more upcoming, like I said, the antiquarian dinner, as well as some other, probably, like I said, post-making, but an exploration of the sourcing of materials, the history of the garment, and my inspiration and execution of said crazy dream plan for a couple other garments. So if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you, and hope to see y'all soon. 안녕.